in Antarctica, which is where that takes place. Abaya is eel from Malaysia, which is more Cthulhu. Therefore, that's the one that sends dreams. But yeah, it's fascinating. Really, really wild. I recommend it. He also seems to have put a lot of weight on this idea of cryptonyms, which I haven't. That he explains this system in appendices that I have not actually read yet. But it seems like he relies on this system of like taking a name, and if you can find somebody's name in the letters of somebody else's name, they have some kind of relation. And it's this whole system that he just completely made up on his own, I think. But he thinks that Gene Wolfe is using it.
I mean, it's definitely possible. Gene Wolfe is really obsessed with, like, specificity of names.
It's true. And also this guy had a correspondence with Gene Wolfe, so maybe he knew something.
Packs a lot of information in people's names.
Yeah.
A lot. More
and I haven't read these appendices yet, so I don't know the system like that. But it is a crazy book, and really did open my eyes to a lot of wild things.
I told you about the intro to that what is that book called? That planet engineering book where there's the intro he talks about. He just breaks down every person's name into like all of its meanings, like his own, his like publisher, like all of these like different people involved in the book,
right.
Like the people that he knows. Like in the acknowledgments, I think he's like thanking people and he's like saying what their names all mean.
Yeah, and he kind of does that in the Sanguinary Field scene where he's encoded his friends' names in those people who are being called out.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking about how last week we talked.
Well, I'm very excited to get Borsky's book, The Long and the Short of It, which is about the long and short stuff.
Interesting. Good, funny title.
Yeah. This guy is a character. He definitely puts a lot of humor into his writing. There's a lot of, like, clearly should have been edited out little, like, I'm going to abandon my style to make a stylistic joke here because I like it.
Well, you know, it's probably a needed salve for the fucking dry-assness of Aramini.
Sure. It's a lot of fun. I tore ass through it because it was just a delight to read. I mean, it was like talking to some other person who like has some insight but is also wrapped up in themselves and so gets things wrong. Like one thing, like he didn't know that bones are metal and that's how Asapago is a robot. He keeps saying like, so Asapago definitely isn't a robot, even though he's clearly a robot.
Yeah.
He thinks that Asapago is Father Emire in a suit dressed up to make people think he's a robot.
Okay. I mean, I guess that supports the Father Emire is everyone.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like most Wolfe scholarship has holes in it. Like
Except for ours.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, ours embraces the holes, and so they cannot hurt us.
Ours is mesh. It's mostly holes.
Yeah.
It's like a nice fine cheesecloth.
Yeah. Right. So, and that's fine. That's good. That's what we're supposed to do. We're filtering, you know, this writing. But you know, I think that there is like, yeah, like all of the. Everything we've looked at, like we've disagreed with Aramini vehemently. The Codex has parts in it that we were like, this doesn't make any sense. And wasn't Gene like involved with that?
I mean, Gene's involved with all of these people.
Right.
He talked to all of them.
So like Gene, which makes me feel like Gene is just like pulling people's leg half the time. when when they're
Yeah,
asking
he's
him
like, yeah,
questions.
anyone approaches him with any idea, and he's like, you're totally right.
I mean, and
I get that. As an
Yeah.
artist, I get that. I love when people
Why would you
come up
not
and say, I
why
saw
would you
this in
not
your
do
play,
that?
and I'm like, great, that's awesome.
Why would you not do that?
yeah,
Yeah.
Because Wolfe is not a joyless man.
no, he's clearly having a lot of fun with the books.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, I feel like he's having more fun in Long Sun than he was in New Sun.
Man, you guys want to see Gene Wolfe having fun? Read Free Live Free. It is a farce. It is just
The Sorcerer's
straight up
House.
comedy.
The Sorcerer's House is also very like Gene's like, I'm just having a good time with this. It's not great, but it is fun. It's weird, so. But yeah, I think any it has to be anybody who went to Gene with their interpretations. He was just like, yeah, absolutely, and he would like. But then I guess you'd maybe feed them additional things just to like see what happens.
It's great. Like all these people were talking to Wolfe, but there's still no like consensus. It's still just like a big dumpster fire of conversation, like around like what's really going on in a lot of these books. For example, I like desperately just Googled like Book of the Long Sun Explained last night. I was just like, come on, there's gotta be like someone's gonna break it down. No one does.
No.
It's all just like this circular kind of.
And even the driest attempts at
Conversation.
breaking it down still don't seem to get it. So it's
Yeah, totally.
I think Gene Wolfe, or like an analysis of Gene Wolfe, it is in like closer to somebody like David Lynch, who it's just like David Lynch doesn't fucking like make fucking. He doesn't have it planned out. He's just vibing. You know what I mean? Like he's just doing his thing and like doing cool shit. And I think that potentially Gene Wolfe is more maybe coming from a place where he's just like, I think this would just be cool, and then it like fits together because it's all coming out of his brain.
And I think
but and then he like resists. David Lynch is like not into people like, or like who knows what he's actually into, like who even knows, but he doesn't encourage people to like do a scholarly analysis of his work. Like he's just like, what are you it's just like, it's just there, like you know what I mean?
But it's like dream interpretation. Like if you're just looking at somebody else's dream and trying to like make that a concrete thing, it's not going to work. Like you can analyze your own dreams and get a lot out of that. but you can get a lot out of your analysis of somebody else's dream, but it's not going to be their thing.
I think sometimes people approach analysis like they're trying to find the author's intent, and I think like that's clearly sets Lynch off. Like when you're like trying to get the answer by seeing what the author intended, when like clearly Lynch doesn't have an explicit intent with a lot of this stuff. He's just like relaying information that came to him.
I feel like Wolfe has a little more of an engineer brain than Lynch.
He does.
So there's my guess is that a lot of the sort of physical reality of what's happening is a lot clearer to Wolfe, but he's also like he's leaving that out essentially. It seems like it's working more as like a framework for all of these like really kind of like subjective connections, things that feel very intuitive and like kind of like spiritual or like metaphysical than these like super very dry like Severian's here and now he's here and then he does this thing.
Seems to me that's the big question in Wolfe scholarship. That's like the one big one is like, how much did he intend?
I mean, he leaves it out.
Does he have answers?
He packs the pieces in so tightly that it must be possible to find connections that he did not notice when he first did it.
Definitely. I think
just from the small amount of stuff like this I've done, I know that's happened to me. And when you've done it to the scale that he has, there must be things there that he just you didn't know, and that people will call your attention to, and you're like, wow.
or
That's
no.
interesting.
I don't think that's
Yeah, or
true.
sometimes you're
That's
like,
interesting.
that does not track.
That's interesting that you're saying there are answers to mysteries. There are answers to mysteries, but Wolfe didn't necessarily intend to put them in. Just
Yeah,
because
I'm
of the
sure
way
that
it's
people come to
constructed.
him and they're like, I've been thinking about this and I look at it this way, and if you see this here, and he's like, oh, I
Yeah.
never noticed that, but yeah, that totally works, and I'm
Yeah.
very satisfied by it.
Oh, definitely. I mean, even trying to, I don't know. I mean, having written a long, interconnected work, one at least in my life, I feel like over the course of that kind of, the length of that kind of project, and the permutations that it goes through, you end up in some, like, you definitely, I think, because you're reading and rereading and rewriting it over and over again, you start to see connections that are very immediate for you personally. But then you're also kind of, as a like side effect of that, you're also generating a lot of additional connections that you're not super aware of.
Yeah.
So like,
And the more you see the connections that you're making, the
right.
less you see the connections that you're missing.
Like, I feel like for me, my book is about something very personal that most people, when they read it, don't get out of it. And that's like, it's fine.
Yeah.
If they like it, especially, it's fine. But like, I feel like the meaning of my book for me is something very different than what it's going to mean for anybody else. To the point where it doesn't super matter. So I, talk to
Yeah.
just about what my book means to me.
Ideally, a successful book or anything will, people will be able to see different things in it or see themselves reflected in it in different kind of ways. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you end up
audience members will connect with successful work in a variety of ways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you end up building a lot of like echoes in the text for yourself, and I'm sure Tim, I mean, you've written very like thematically linked long works, but like,
I'm not doing yoga for this.
yeah, I think like as much as you build those in, eventually it's going to be there are other echoes that happen that you don't notice, just because
Yeah, for sure.
That's like, an aspect of your writing that you're not even really like aware of.
Yeah, I know, Connor, you've written a lot of plays too, and I think
Yeah.
that happens a lot with you
Definitely.
stage a play, and then you get feedback later, and people will say like, "Oh yeah, like I really like this aspect and this
Well,
and
When you
this."
make a play and then you
Also,
find
the
out later
collaborative
what
nature
was
of putting on a play, like,
Yeah.
'cause, especially if you're not both writer and director, which I usually am, but if somebody hands you a script and now you're the director, going through all of the actors and the designers, and then each of the audience members sees what they see, like that, people get wildly different.
The wildest part about doing a play to me was always finding out what the audience thinks is funny.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you
Never
never
know where those
like
laughs are coming
there
from.
might be parts of the play that you're working on that you're like, this is funny, but you're so like directly involved with it that you're not experiencing it as a joke, like as you're creating it.
Yeah.
Because it's just
Yeah.
like a part of this whole big thing that you're doing, and
Yeah.
then you get the laughs, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you have to completely restructure the whole play around what the audience does.
Right.
Yeah.
You get some of that in whenever I read do a reading, and you find out like, oh, this is a joke, and I didn't even think about it that way.
For
I remember
yeah.
when we did
Humor
the,
with salt.
when we did the Golden Spike play, there was like just so much comedy. There was like a whole series of scenes in that play that were just slapstick. And one night of like the 4-week run, no one laughed at all for the whole night. And we were like pulling our hair out behind backstage, going like, what the fuck is happening? Like, why? Like, it wasn't like the room was empty, and it didn't seem like there was any reason. And at the end of it, I knew at least 2 people pretty well that were in the audience, and I immediately got out. Like, we were all, I think, pretty crushed. And I went out, and I was like, what happened? Like, to these people in the audience, they were like, great, that was awesome. And I was like, but no one laughed. And they're like, oh, I didn't really notice. I guess I was thinking about the play. but like it didn't seem like they were lying to me. Like it actually seemed like it hadn't occurred to them that maybe it was just like a thing. Like no one else was laughing, so no one ever laughed.
That's what every show is like in Canada. It really is.
Oh yeah.
You go to Canada, you play, you can be doing a great show. And actually, normally I feel like I do a good job. I have had great shows in Canada. The audience is quiet the whole time.
Yeah.
And then you come out.
That's what
that was amazing. They just shower you with praises. They buy all of your stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah. That's what comedians say about performing in Scandinavia. You ever hear like anecdotes of comedians talking about going over to like, I don't know, Iceland or Finland or something, and they'll do a set, like the audience is like doesn't really want to like laugh. They're just listening the whole time, but like enjoying it immensely, but just not wanting to like interrupt.
Yeah, they're just too polite.
Yeah, they're just paying attention. Yeah, Canadian audiences are the best, by the way.
To bring what we've been talking about
Theater-wise.
to what we've read for today, I think that another aspect, another filter that you have to go through when you're talking about Wolfe critique is the character itself, who is usually misrepresenting and fooling themselves, as we see Silk doing at the beginning of this chapter. I think a lot. Right? He like wakes up and he's like, "It's Molpsday." So it's like time to be fleet of foot and up and at him, and he immediately says, "And I don't feel like that at all." And then the next thing he does is say, even though it's Molpsday, he says, today's goddess is fidgets. For no reason other than the stick that he decided kind of looks like a lion, although it probably doesn't. Like, this is just all him making shit up.
Then it's Horn making shit up about him. Right.
Right. So that's another way. Like the audience is also the characters in the book, talking to themselves.
Oh, so I was curious about. I brought it up in the email about the Gate of Horn reference, because I knew that's in the title of the Derusi book, right? It's Gate of Horn, Book of Silk.
Yes.
Yeah. So. And it had come up in this book that I read, Real Big, and I think it also maybe came up in Circe, because that's about Odysseus is a big character in it.
It's in Sandman.
What?
It's in the Sandman comic books.
Oh, yeah, right. So I mean, I hadn't never really thought about it, and so I looked it up, and it's like Penelope characterizes the Gate of Horn, where the dreams come through, and Gate of Silk, but
Ivory.
Yeah, Gate of Ivory, where the deception or whatever, like kind of untrue dreams. And so I guess does Derusi write at all about that in the book, in Gate of Horn, Book of Silk? Like why is it just like an intuitive like reference that he made?
I haven't seen anything about that, but I've by no means exhaustively explored that book.
Right.
Oh, he says it right in the intro.
Yeah,
I haven't read the intro. That's like one of the things that I definitely haven't read.
I know, I realized that too. I was like, maybe he does, and then it's like right at the beginning.
Can you read what it says?
The ancient Greeks have clearly been on... this is a foreword by Gene Wolfe.
Oh.
Damn.
Okay, good.
Titled Ring Bell at Gate.
Okay.
Which I think is pretty funny. The ancient Greeks have clearly been on Michael Andrews' mind, so I thought I might begin by telling you about them. They said, and perhaps believed, that dreams emerge into our world through two gates. The Gate of Ivory and the Gate of Horn. Those that entered... Ryan, you gotta mute when you do that.
Typing.
Brutal. They said, and perhaps believed, that dreams emerge into our world through two gates. The Gate of Ivory and the Gate of Horn. Those Those that entered through the gate of ivory were lovely, but not true, and thus not useful. Those of the gate of horn were less lovely, but true, and thus very useful indeed. In the hands of the Greeks, objects of ivory were pretty and sometimes exquisite, but they were to be admired and not to be used or trusted. Objects of horn, generally spoons, combs, and the like, were not thought pretty and not much admired, but they were put to use every day. If you have read reviews of my books, you have been told 100 times over that I use unreliable narrators. There is some truth in that, though not much. Oh, my readers and good friends, there is no such creature as a perfectly reliable human narrator. What Michael is telling you is less academically fashionable, but much more useful. It is that Horn, who narrates Silk's adventures and his own, is as reliable as human beings ever get. That being the case, we may enter Silk's world through Horn's gate, finding there various lovely things and many more unlovely, but useful in understanding Silk's story. Love.
Okay. Steadfast endorsement of Horn's reliability from Gene.
Well, no, Horn as reliable as anyone else.
Right.
Which means unreliable.
Yeah.
Right.
But still,
Such
like,
a
it's
Gene
still-
Wolfe
he's putting him
answer.
over as, like, Silk's they're mainly being portrayed correctly here. But I
I
guess
don't think so.
No,
I
that's
think
not what he's saying.
thinking. He's
I
like,
don't know.
he's like,
He's saying
look at this encyclopedia, wink. He like,
saying
he's not
everyone-
saying,
everyone experiences life through their own weird perspectives and filters, and everyone's doing that, and Horn's doing the same thing.
I think that this becomes even more clear when you get to know Horn in Short Cell. Like, this is almost the point of Short Cell.
Interesting.
And, like, shredding identity through that.
That's cool. All right.
I believe it was the Butthole Surfers who said, you never know just how you look through other people's eyes until you've read the Short Cell.
Thanks, Pepper.
Johan is up in here talking a lot and said,
The Butthole Surfers?
yeah. It says characters constantly foreshadow or describe relevant things with their inaccuracies in Wolfe, I think, as a constant gag. And I feel I have that sense too, that he thinks it's really funny for someone to get something wrong and be right.
Right.
Speaking of, before we jump into this chapter from this week and also talking about names, one thing I don't remember us talking about was we talked a lot about Hyacinth's name and about the link to the Greek myth of Hyacinth. But did we mention that Hyacinth is also a stone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
had a whole big thing about that.
That was
But
a
not-
while ago.
I know it was a while ago, but I don't think we brought it up
Not in
again. Yeah,
Not in that moment.
right. But it
We
like,
started likening her to Jalenta.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was reading something else that brought up the stone, and I was like, oh, whoa, we had that huge conversation about Hyacinth but last time, but we didn't go back into the maybe she's a robot thing.
Part robot. Part human, part robot.
Is there not also a rose stone? All you crystal hounds out there?
Well,
I don't know.
Rose quartz.
Rose quartz?
Oh,
there are stones named after pretty much everything. I don't, you know,
All right, Jordan makes a point.
Yeah, but not literally everything. I mean, there's like
almost. Like everything has like a folk terminology that is like, so like everything could have like 4 names. So, you know what I mean?
but I don't think there's
Well,
like
there's gonna be a monster
think-
every
I don't
drink
think there's,
stone.
like-
You just
I
haven't
don't think-
gotten there yet.
I don't think there's like metal stone. Like I don't think it's like
Okay.
relevant necessarily for like every name is all I'm saying. I think it's like
Alright.
I mean for purposes of the book or
I'm just saying it's not. I don't think every use of every single name is going to bring us is going to open doors for us.
All right.
Or how many doors does it open, I guess? It might open one door.
Yeah.
Will it open another door after that?
I gotta imagine every name has at least one.
I mean, like, in like this overarching sense of like how in this book how identity is fluid, everyone takes on others' identities, and it does make sense that like the name for something at the end of the day isn't really important. You know what I mean? Like, the names are so important in this book, but then in another sense, like, okay, but everybody is everybody else. So, you know.
One thing I was definitely feel like was coming through in this chapter today was that Silk is a mirror, and that Silk's encounters with people, he seems to leave like taking on a big quality of them, which is something that also apparently happens when you get possessed.
Yeah.
There's like a two-way turkey baster or whatever. But like,
he looks in a mirror a whole bunch in this chapter.
Yeah, and then I was thinking about how he spends time with Auk and then does a great robbery. He like spends some time with Hyacinth and becomes really horny. And then I felt like in this chapter there was a weird thing banging around between him and Chenille and Remora, where they were like, Chenille's like in withdrawal from Rust, and it's making her talk funny, but she's also possessed, which is making her talk funny, and she's confusing Silk, which starts to make him talk funny, and the end result is they both kind of sound like Remora at a certain point.
There's a point where Silk actually points out how he can sympathize.
Yeah.
It's really early, I feel like, in that sequence when he says once, and then there's a parenthetical of like, oh, now I sympathize with Remora. But then for like pages after, I felt like Chenille really sounded like Remora.
Yeah, she's
which I think
like
is
questioning
so cool.
everything.
It's so
She's
cool
in a daze.
how they convey like she can't access the brain right because of the drug withdrawal, so she's just like digging through words and like, is this the right word? No, not the. Is this the right person? Like it. I think it's really cool.
It gave me a theory that Remora is a metaphorical ghoul. Like, you know how
I'm sorry to bring up names again, but his name implies that the Remora are the fish that feed off of the leavings of hammerhead sharks. They are that kind of leechy, ghouly guy.
Yeah, and in vampire lore or whatever, you feed, like, a vampire feeds a ghoul a little bit of vampire blood, and they become an addict. And so, like, Remora kind of talks like a Rust addict because he's that ghoul of the vampire.
That's what a ghoul is?
Yeah, well, that's like the in the what? Yeah, the canon. Vampire canon comes from White Wolf, and that's what a ghoul is in that game.
I think traditionally a ghoul is a sort of like pseudo-demonic creature that eats corpses.
I thought it was just a catch-all term for like creatures.
Goblins and ghosts and ghasts and ghouls.
They kind of become that. I think they're usually like they live in a graveyard. There's like that's their whole deal.
Yeah, I want a ghoul to be something specific.
It's Arabic. The star Al Ghul is named after, also the Batman.
Oh, cool.
Rish Al Ghul.
Yeah, I just watched that movie. I just watched Batman Begins for the first time.
There you go.
Yeah, Kree is like Arabian.
Movies are silly.
But I do think that I was noticing, and I didn't make a note of it, unfortunately, but I think there are several times where it's significant, or like Silk looks in the mirror and then does something duplicitous, or it's one of those times that he's like misrepresenting himself as he's like shaving. He like says something and then like figures it out a way to contradict it while he's looking in the mirror, I thought.
Oh, and at the end of the...
also, we're about to go to this giant lake mirror, which is going to wreak all sorts of havoc for everybody.
Yeah, mirrors are sinister in this book.
Yeah. I mean, they are the means to overwrite your brain and steal who you are. Beautifully described by Chenille in this chapter. and that's that.
All right, next week we'll do chapter 6.
Yeah.
Have we gotten to the chenille conversation yet? That was
Which-
the beginning
We've
of it.
danced around everybody right now.
This whole chapter is kind of just turns into a long conversation
It is.
between 3 people that all talk weird.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's like more so dialogue based than anything else so far, and this whole book is so told through dialogue.
And there's a lot of I feel like really shockingly explicit for Wolfe statements in this chapter. We got a couple of those, I think, in the last chapter, but then this chapter is full of and Mint was possessed, and she closed her eyes, so she's only partially possessed. It's shockingly explicit here.
Yeah. But I also remember reading this the first time and just being so mind blasted by everything that I still didn't get it. You know, it's so direct and yet so overwhelming that I still think it's very obscure.
This chapter obscures things for me, actually.
I think it's the dialect. I think it's because everything is said in a dialect, so you're getting really straight information, but you're like, what the fuck? This paragraph that Ock says at the very end,
oh yeah.
I'm just I
I had
saw
to
it my
reread that one.
mental image was of a movie when someone like Boomhauer, that kind of a joke is what was happening in my mind, where I was just okay, I read that, I know these are real words. He actually said something, and it's actually really smart. But I have no fucking clue what just happened.
There's a dictionary for that in the supplement thing.
Oh, really?
Of all the slang that's used in the whole book, and then divided up into the different families of slang that are used.
That paragraph is intense, though.
It is. And it's basically about blackmailing people, that he's blackmailed a bunch of people because he found cool shit in their houses he could blackmail them for.
It's a whole bunch of how to be a criminal and get politicians kind of stuff. I read ahead to the next chapter, and I was struck this time, and this chapter really sets it up, how this is a Raymond Chandler novel, and they go to Lake Limna, which is L.A., it's the beach, and to chase down clues, and it gets all Raymond Chandler, Big Lebowski.
I have the same thought, dude. I did.
Oh, another mirror of Silk is that when Silk meets blood, he shakes blood down for money.
Oh, right, yeah.
I feel anytime Silk also beats up Musk at one point. Silk completely, when he has significant encounters with people, he kind of takes their thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that is a big part of him.
Yeah.
Every time.
Also, for all that Ock knows how to, the technique of how to do what they're doing, it's Silk's idea to be we're going to go to Limna and find the fucking Ayun and Miento, because that's where we're really going to get some action. Everybody else was thinking of these small potato things of how to take down Crane. He's no, we got to go get what Crane wanted. That's how we take down Crane. And they're oh, you're right. Big moves by Silk. For all that he plays down what he does, and he's always looking in another direction. The big moves and the power is often by Silk.
In that way, Remora has rubbed off on him too.
Sure.
Yeah, because now he's a politician. He's kind of conniving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is a pretty swift personality change. I noticed.
Everything he does, there's a canniness that he doesn't admit to himself in everything he does. The way he handles Gulo, I think, is just masterful. Where the guy comes in and we know that we can't trust him. This guy is a spy, so he gives him all of the jewels He's like
Yeah.
up front says like, these are all of the jewels. I know that you know that I have shown you all of the jewels. You go put them in the cash box, and you have the key. If these jewels are missing, I know that you took them. I thought that was crazy smart, and not
But
what I
it's-
think of as Silk is doing.
And it's awesome. He's like, excuse me, sir, I'm here to spy on you. And he's like, cool, you're in charge. I'm gonna hit the road. Like,
Yeah.
when I get back.
I'm gonna go to the beach. It's beach day today. I'm gonna go with my whore friend. My beach friend.
I'm so glad you're here. It's great to meet you. You're in charge now. See you later.
Wait,
It-
so who gives Gerlo? It's Gerlo, right? Who
Yeah.
gives him the?
Gerlo.
Was that Auk? Did Auk give him that when he walked in?
No, it was some thief just donated it. because
Oh,
they
Oh,
heard
Auk
about
says-
what Cypress said to do. And
when
they-
Ock shows up, he says tons of houses got robbed in the Palatine that night.
that's what it is. Okay.
I read ahead. I'm sorry, but in the next chapter, Gilo mentions that 2 more people have dropped off baubles. Like they keep coming. People just want.
It's because they had a theophany, so they're like, oh, we gotta give.
Yeah.
fucking give
A
money to
theophany where people feel like Cypress specifically said, go steal things and donate them to this mansion.
That's
I'm
awesome.
coming back, and I want this to have happened.
It's like an uprising that is totally theologically triggered.
Yeah.
But it's like
Like Mother Mary showed up and was like, go storm the Capitol.
take their jewelry and then give it to a priest.
Yep.
That's
No,
interesting.
somebody- it would be
I-
like not even Mary. Somebody who's not even like
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like
that
Saint
low regarded.
Teresa.
Somebody like way shittier. Not shittier.
And so they do. Bless you, Jen.
Maybe like Saint
Oh, good.
Mary of Egypt. She was a former prostitute.
There you go.
Cool. So many Marys.
There are.
At least 3, right?
At least 3.
Oh,
Something about Mary.
Johann Rattar is bringing up that the vision in Fatima was that Mary came and told Russia they all had to become Catholic.
Whoa.
Well, that didn't work.
Oh, is that Alan's brother's religion? Brother?
He's Russian Orthodox, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Just because this chick said, who's like, all right.
Well, no, they're not Catholic. They're
Oh, they're not? No, they're Orthodox. Okay,
Yeah.
that's different.
yeah,
Never mind.
which is its own wild thing.
And the roots are the Byzantine Empire, right? That's when Orthodox Church starts?
Yeah.
It was like Fatima can go. He was like Fatima can suck it.
That's right.
I don't
Russia
give a
didn't
shit what
know
Fatima.
Fatima. A thing that had a lot to do with the sun. That 3,000 people saw the sun crash into the ocean.
Like
Is
fast.
that a Charles Fort thing?
Is that a what?
Charles Fort.
Did you read that in Charles Fort?
No, the Fatima is a thing that people have written a lot about. I've seen like many movies about it and stuff like that. Being Catholic, that was kind of a like, if the teacher was not feeling it in CCD, she'll put on a cartoon about the Fatima. God bless the Virgin thing.
Johann thinks it's geopolitics or possibly CIA involved.
He thinks that the CIA is behind Fatima.
Yeah, he's
The CIA is before, or the Fatima's before the CIA. Isn't Fatima in like when did Fatima fucking occur?
I would type it in, but then Jen will yell at me.
I'm doing it.
You just have to mute. It sounds insane. You don't know. You don't know.
I moved the microphone
Someone
too, so
back me
hopefully.
up on this. No one's gonna back me up on that.
I'm typing myself.
Yeah, I think they're all looking it up. We're petting a cat. Hey, Tim, your mustache is awesome.
Yeah.
You really think so?
Yeah, I really do. I mean,
All right, right on.
We're all
That's the
clearly
feedback I need.
mustache.
I like accessories just as the quality of me. I like accessories.
Well, here's how the decision to do it came about: is that I was shaving, which was obviously a few days, and this is the part I shaved last, and I was like, "Fuck it, it's staying."
That's how every mustache starts.
There was no CIA when Fatima happened.
Was there the?
The OSS.
I was just gonna say that.
Wasn't. The Fatima happened in 1917.
Hmm.
Some other thing.
So there was the Pinkertons,
The Pinkerton.
There was a Pinkerton op.
and they were not in Portugal.
Actually, yeah, it's not just the mustache. It's that the mustache goes with the glasses, the haircut, the little tooth gap.
The whole package.
It's a whole picture, yeah.
It's facial synergy.
Yeah, it's good. It's really, yeah.
Really
It just
ties
like
the-
fits right in.
This is the talk I need because I've been really self-conscious lately because I've been like gaining COVID weight. So I like look at myself in the mirror. I'm like,
No, it's a
So
good
anyway,
one.
I'm glad to hear that at least my facial synergy is working.
Yo,
you look-
last night the streets were full of Hopkins students. It was like, yeah, it was looking like pre-plague Saturday night on my way to work, and then at work, one of the students that lives in the building had a party. There was like,
Did you have to do something about that?
no, I mean I had to let the kids in, but it was like little stages of like two kids showed up, and then one kid showed up, and then one kid showed up, and I was like, I had not seen that happen. I've only been working there since January, but I've seen like people come with a friend, but this is the first time like people were showing up and then getting like signed in to go up to their friend's room.
The cases are going up too.
Uh-huh.
I actually got my first COVID test this week because I got sick earlier this week, and I thought it was COVID. The test came back negative, so that's good. But I feel like I had fucking COVID this week, though.
Damn.
I've been tested like 4 times. They do sentinel testing at work. I get tested on Thursday.
Yeah, that's regular.
Ew.
A lot of people.
Well, you get tested like on a regular schedule?
Well, initially they had like everybody had to get tested before like a semester started. But then they're also doing sentinel testing where they do a random group of
Oh, yeah.
staff and students, and they're like, all right, in the next week you just have to go get tested. So, I don't know. I think the on-campus numbers aren't that bad, which is surprising because in the fall semester, we kids immediately had parties and all got sick.
Yeah.
That's what we didn't have classes on campus for most of the fall semester because the students were just it didn't
Fuck
happen.
wild.
Well, Hopkins, I think, sent everyone home like immediately and didn't have kids on. So I feel like now something must be like they've gotten the smallest little encouragement from the media that it's over, and so now like a whole year of not partying is about to unleash upon Charles Village.
Yeah, the criminal element has been doing that down here.
Oh yeah, the crimes have been across the city. That has been noted in the media as well.
Yeah.
They're kind of back to normal. There was like a unseasonable lull in many of the crimes. And Mosby was taking credit for it, being like, it's because we're not prosecuting things, so we're just not going to prosecute them anymore.
Oh man, the Mosby conversations going on right now are like just insane.
Okay, to those who are viewing this in the future and in other countries, Mosby is the name of both of what is her official title? She's like the state's attorney, the city,
Yeah.
yes, state's attorney, the one who lost the case against Freddie Gray's murderers, and also her husband, who is now the city council president. They don't have like a Brangelina name, do they? They're just the Mosbys.
They should.
They should have a
Yeah,
Brangelina
do
name.
a whole separate podcast and just talk purely about the Mosbys.
Baltimore politics I feel like are slightly related to Wolfe because it's very easy, I think, to be as cynical as Wolfe is about the Ayuntamiento if you live in Baltimore, because it's kind of it's just a very similar thing. Our councilors are up to the same stuff.
My city council person.
Who's yours?
Well, it was Mary Pat Clark, who was like the badass of reality for like decades, and now it's Odette Ramos, who's kind of cool.
Yeah,
she's going for some cool stuff. She's like trying to fuck up the tax sales and fuck up the water bills. Like she's cool.
There are a couple of good ones who actually try.
Mostly they suck though. Robert Stokes.
Oh, Robert Stokes is really bad.
He's mine.
You know, he's not even related to like Carl Stokes, like to the other political Stokes family, but he's been riding because he has the same name.
He's just.
But they're not related.
My man.
He does like he barely even ran, right? He was the guy that
yeah,
he was up
had,
against
like,
what's her name?
Pretty good. He had some pretty good opposition, and they still just couldn't take him down.
Was Franca his opposition?
Yeah, Franca was running against.
Yeah, how he beat her blows my mind.
And before she ran against him as Green, he had a primary opponent, that West Street guy, who could have been good.
Yeah, Stokes must have something.
Name recognition of being a Stokes, which he isn't, which is awesome. It's just awesome.
No, so
Stokes, Baltimore. People are just like, I know that name. I vote for that.
Let me break it down really quick. So Franca appealed throughout white areas, right? I mean, that's just how it works, and actually did comparatively way better than any of Stokes' previous competitors. Stokes has been like completely unchallenged for like forever, like over like 12 years or something like that. And so Franca was the first significant challenge, but here's the thing, she still got steamrolled, and she got steamrolled throughout East Baltimore, and when you start to like kind of like dig into the answers as to why, I mean, it's kind of name recognition, but Stokes in general is known as from someone who is from East Baltimore. Yeah. And if you're from Baltimore, that means a lot. That's a huge part of Mosby's appeal.
It's insane that in a city where...
But Stokes destroyed, though, just because people are very suspicious of Franca in Baltimore. Why?
It makes no sense for incumbents to have such an easy time in a city where people are like really unsatisfied with the status quo.
People love the status quo in East and West Baltimore.
People love the status quo in Maryland. Maryland is like I always say Maryland is like if Hillary Clinton was a state. It's like the most right-wing Democrats in the world.
So
right next door to Delaware.
It's like solid blue, but it's the most right-wing blue. Like it's only solid blue because
it's
like
Hogan.
of the Democratic machines. Like it's a
Hogan
right
specifically. Yeah. It's like a Hogan state.
The state that elected Larry Hogan twice.
They love him.
Democrats.
If he ran a third time, they would vote for him. Like they love him.
They might vote for him for president.
They love him. Yeah, but no one else will. Oh my god. I would love it I hope he runs and gets like O'Malley. I hope it happens.
Embarrassing.
I hope it happens so hard. I would love to see him lose really bad in like the first round.
It's like Chris Christie probably got a big head, and like turns out no one liked Chris Christie.
Oh my god. I hope he does it. I fucking hope he does it. I would love when I see him get like 1% of the vote and then he drops out immediately.
What is O'Malley doing now?
People are like, oh, we just need these sensible, centrist Republicans. That's like, there's no appetite for that anywhere, except Maryland, because that's our brand. Anyway. Obviously.
It kind of ties into the fact that we were a state that was Confederate at heart, but was not allowed to join the Confederacy because Lincoln threw the city council in jail.
It's exactly what it boils
Meanwhile,
down to.
Eastern Shore of Maryland was like the capital of industrialized slavery. Like the hotbed of that shit. Like we invented that shit.
Maryland and Virginia are very similar, actually. Like they're, well,
But there is that thing, that little vibe difference. Little vibe difference. It's like you're one further north. Like Virginia is the South, Maryland is the Mid-Atlantic. Like there is a difference there. There's like a note difference. It's like a chord change that happens. It's like just. It's like the self-image of it. You know?
Tim, where did you grow up?
Tim or me?
Vermont. I was born in Virginia. I moved up and down the East Coast when I was very small. Then moved to New York, Albany specifically, and then I did most of my growing up in Vermont.
Vermont, the state that was forced to become part of the original 13 colonies against its will.
Yeah, Vermont's a pretty sweet state.
So you're a northerner like me and George.
Yeah, exactly.
Gang.
Yeah, Vermonter. Vermont was cool though. That's where I learned how to be into socialism and stuff. I probably wouldn't be like that if I didn't. Maybe I would. Actually, I don't know, but
they got them outside Vermont too.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Vermont, it runs deep though. It's like, it's been an uninterrupted socialist haven.
Although Vermont has a Republican governor now, and that's because in the last race, it was a tight split between a socialist, a Democrat, and a Republican, and the Republican ended up splitting the difference and winning. But the Republican is more of a Democrat than Hogan, for example. So,
right.
Yeah. So.
Oh man, this has got to be the time that we just dispense with left and right. It's so useless now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just happening.
All terms are useless
now. We just have to catch up to we just have to name what's happening. It's happening. There is no left and right. That's not the divide that is happening.
Yeah, it's
the class divide.
Yeah. I just watched a video about.
We're not allowed to have that in this country. We're not allowed to have class consciousness. It's barred from discussion. We're not allowed.
I just watched a video analyzing the SNL Black Jeopardy sketch that Tom Hanks was on, where he plays a MAGA hat guy.
Yeah,
but he knows all the answers because they live in very similar cultures. But then the whole thing falls apart when the final Jeopardy question is which lives matter. But it was a really good thing, and I watched this black dude analyzing it, and it was really interesting. I didn't know about it prior to this. Everybody should check it out. Saturday Night Live. It's on Saturday nights on NBC.
I remember when that sketch happened.
It's no David Pumpkins, that's for sure.
Oh, I love David Pumpkins.
David S. Pumpkins rules.
I think
I don't know what that is.
That was the last gasp of that show, I think, before it died.
I think they end up having 2 good skits a season or something that become memorable, and then it every now and then something good leaks through into that show. But it's always been a setup for failure. It's always been a pretty hit or miss show. So sometimes more than others.
It's it's kind of glorious when they fail in a surreal direction, and it's so discouraging when they fail in a political direction.
Well, also, like so much comedy, it's better with cocaine.
The 70s ones are kind of dry though too. I don't know if they really hold up as.
Oh man, but they're just absurd. They're just these absurd, weird things. I don't find them funny, but I love them.
But I think it's similar where there's the good sketches you remember, and you don't remember the bad ones.
Yeah.
There's always some funny ones. It's just they're the minority. now and forever.
It's funny how like certain people like I miss and I really wonder like why they didn't get a shot like other people did. Like lately I've been missing Chris Kattan a lot. I've been like seeing things on TV where I've been like, if Chris Kattan was doing this, it would be really great.
Everybody hated him.
Did you see Corky Romano?
No, I don't think I saw any of his movies, but I've like been missing his energy.
All of the cast members are
like
all
a
trashing
few
him.
movies, right? I mean, he had like a few like.
I think that they quickly realized that Chris Kattan was not the box office draw that they had hoped.
Also, the other SNL people just don't want to work with him, so he didn't have the like legs up that other people in that infrastructure did.
Possible. Yeah, Norm Macdonald talks at length about disliking Chris Kattan.
Also, like,
I just want to go just really quick, just reassert my wholehearted endorsement of the movie Coneheads.
Oh yeah, Coneheads is real good.
Chris Farley was never like not watchable, and kind of anything that he was in, it becomes watchable because he is like a black hole for attention of other people. He's incredible.
Well, but also Jane Curtin is in that movie, so it's awesome.
He is so good.
Jane Curtin is one of the best people to have ever happened.
Why did Sherry O'Terry disappear? She was like
Sherry O'Terry is in possibly one of my favorite movies of all time, Southland Tales.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Sherry Terry was awesome.
She did a lot of lifting on that show.
Mm-hmm. She did a lot, yeah. And you would think that she could have like gone on some of the Will Ferrell vehicles.
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't bring her along because she really like was the power behind most of his reoccurring skits.
That's probably why he didn't bring her along.
Oh,
very good point.
What? Can you repeat that?
I said that's probably why he didn't bring her along.
Yeah, because she is so much funnier.
Yeah.
Historically, though, SNL served as a launching pad for more of its male comedians than a lot of its female comedians. Like, a lot of them were just kind of fallen off or never quite got to the superstar status of your Mike Myerses and your Will Ferrells, Like,
even when they named their movie Superstar.
Yeah. That's directed by Mark McKinney. Or, I'm sorry, not Mark McKinney. Bruce McCullough.
Oh, wow. I'm going to watch that movie because Bruce McCullough is awesome. Bruce McCullough is the sequel to Anne of Green Gables.
What? Wait, what?
That's right. He's in
it, or
part.
he directed
it?
He
is. No, he's in it.
Mark McKinney. Mark McKinney is in Superstore, and in Superstore he commits. There's like 6 seasons of this show. He commits in the first episode to a very high-pitched, insane voice that he maintains for the entire series, and he's incredible. He's so good.
It's like a Kids in the Hall character who mainstays throughout an entire series.
Entire show. It's fantastic. Dave Foley comes on an episode also, and it's pretty good.
Well, those guys are all very good, but
I've been watching
Bruce is the weirdest one of all of them. Bruce is the weird one.
Bruce's Kids in the Hall sketch is the strongest.
My favorite Kids in the Hall sketch is like a Bruce McCullough vehicle, which is "You're Gonna Be a Doors Fan."
Yeah, oh, it's so good.
Like, it's so great, and it's all
drive out on the highway. Do put in the 8-track.
What's he saying?
I have a car. Steal a car.
Johan has typed "Pimps don't commit suicide" in all caps. Is that from Southland Tales?
Yes, it is from Southland Tales. That's correct.
Did they make a TV series of that?
No, they didn't. But there are rumors that they are going to release the director's cut.
Whoa!
Which is 4 hours long because from what I hear, they put in the hour where Janine Garofalo's character, who is only in like 3 frames of it, it takes an hour to explain the nature of God.
Whoa! Release the cut!
Yeah, exactly.
Aaron recently watched it and has been trying to get me to watch it. and
It's so-
he sent me the file of the movie. And then the other night I was like, well, we could watch we were trying to figure out what to watch. I said to Madison, we could watch Southland Tales. And she's like, I need to see a trailer. And we watched the trailer for it. And at the end she said, absolutely not.
It's so amazing and so fun. And everyone is in it, and everyone does an amazing job. Justin Timberlake is.
I mean, look, if Dwayne Johnson is the lead role, I'm interested in watching it. He's a magnetic personality, and it seems like
Mandy Moore is amazing in it. Mandy Moore.
Yeah, I don't know. I will watch it eventually. I just don't. I'm not going to make Madison watch it with me. So
Kevin Smith is amazing in it.
Yeah.
Eli Roth gets shot on a toilet, and that's the only thing that happens to him, and that's awesome.
Sounds nice.
Movie looks good.
It's outrageous.
I'll have to watch it soon. I'm curious about this hour-long Jeanine Garofalo monologue, though.
All of that is rumors. I don't know how much of it is true. I want all of it to be true, and I want other things that I can't imagine to be true.
Nice.
Thank you.
Do you guys want to talk about the book?
Yes.
I guess.
I'm starting to get back into this book with this chapter and the next chapter. I love Lake Limna, guys, and the closer we get to it, the happier I am. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where this book starts getting really, for real, tricky.
Mm-hmm. So earlier we were saying that this chapter has like a shocking amount of information that seems explicit for Wolfe. And I think that is true. Like there's like Chenille is having these is trying to describe to Silk the experience of being possessed by Kypris. But to me, it still complicates things further because it brings in the element of not only does Kypris enter in through your eyes, but you also share something with Kypris. And to me, I think that complicates, I think, the metaphor that I was building in my head about what's going on with the gods of mainframe and the population environ. And
why?
I think because I was thinking of like the function of the gods as kind of the social programming of the people. And if that was, and that's just my own theory that I had, but if that's the case, then why would it be a two-way communication? Like, then it becomes more of a weird spiritual metaphor.
No. It's straight software. When the software downloads into your brain, it overwrites your software, and now it's running on your hardware, which is built for your software. So when it re-downloads back up, or re-uploads to mainframe and the main body of the program, it's going to include your fingerprint on it.
So it just like captures that information.
But right, yeah.
It's like
part of it, like Kypris in Chenille keeps saying, like, I'm not Kypris, I'm definitely Chenille.
Yeah.
Kypris, the Kypris program is operating Chenille, but it's not Kypris at all right now, and wouldn't be until it goes back up into Kypris and shares its information. Much like Zadkiel and its mini Zadkiels.
Yeah.
But Kypris also says some interesting stuff regarding Gene Wolfe being explicit in this, where she's like, I'm going to tell it to you straight. I'm not going to lie. This is what it's like. And Silk is like, what? And she's like, you're right. I'm going to lie to you. That's the only way you can understand it. So here's what it's like. He's like, I understand perfectly. She's like, I knew you would if I didn't tell you right.
Yeah, so then you don't know what to believe.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of the Latin motto of my new favorite author, James Branch James Branch Cabell. His motto was the Latin phrase that means the world wants to be deceived, so deceive it.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this guy. I didn't realize that Jack Vance stole his humor from an earlier dude who happens to have like 50 books. So now I uncovered a stone on Wikipedia by accident and found potentially like dozens of more books like the ones that are my favorite.
Bunch of little salamanders and worms
Yeah.
under the rock.
Yeah, so far I'm just reading his like most famous, which is called Jurgen, A Comedy of Justice, and it's incredible. And I guess it's like I've been looking now. I'm like trying to find traces of it in this book, knowing that Wolfe likes Vance, and Vance clearly is like a disciple of this dude Cabell. But it's almost weird. It's almost like if you took the Wolfe out of Vance, you would have it's like the inverse of like the thing. It seems like Wolfe is like the other side of Vance than Cabell is.
Yeah, I'm reading. Apparently, Kugel is supposed to be very similar to Jurgen.
Oh yes. Oh, they're practically the same character.
I don't like him.
Oh, I love him.
Because I hate Kugel.
Jurgen is like a Kugel that is just like a little bit more self-aware, but also more ridiculous.
Apparently, also the Sandman has a lot of parallels in to Jurgen.
Jurgen
Sandman?
Yeah.
Jurgen's really interesting because it's super farcical and like really fantastical, and he's like often making jokes that are like clearly to spite people that want a very literal like interpretation of things. He does really neat things where he'll skip over, which is, I guess this is kind of Wolfy, where he'll skip over like a significant action by just kind of like hand waving or like do one throwaway line for something that's like really important and then moves on. The kind of stuff I feel like that would...
That makes me think about something that Borsky talks about. He thinks he knows what happens at the end of book one.
Which is?
That's the first time that Erebus and the Undines go up the Guile. And that's the guards being mobilized to repel them.
Huh. That's kind of neat.
And he has all sorts of, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but there's all sorts of like mirroring and parallels between those two incidents that he points out. Like when Severian leaves and he meets up with the Lockage, he talks about you got to watch out on the river. There's strange sounds on it and stuff like that. He makes a very compelling argument. I'm
compelled just from what you've said so far.
Yeah. It's a fun book. Everybody should read it. You can borrow it from me. I've read it, except I got to read those two appendices.
I think I have a digital version of it.
Oh, check it out. It's cool.
Also, email us the digital version.
See if I can find it.
Want to talk more about this chapter?
Well, we've kind of talked about the stuff with Mint and her like partial possession.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's definitely axe possessed. She's very strange in this chapter. It's really weird. Yeah, it's weird that she says like you're the only grown up that doesn't freak me out, and then she talks about how she like immediately she's like I'm 37, so I'm old.
She was like what 19? Like she's not she would in no way look like an adult. Though she has like the power of Kypris now, and like Mint has Kypris in her brain. So
yeah,
she's, like,
and she's like, you're like my big sister. I love you, and then she walks away.
Yeah.
I guess
and
that part.
The thing is, we don't really have anything about like We know that Mint is acting strange, but we don't know what she acted like before at all.
He said that she's shy. He's like, we've heard that she's shy secondhand, and we've like seen her not talk, which sort of corroborates that. But like, that's all we have.
Yeah, kind of saying that someone is shy is the same thing as saying I don't know anything about them.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
also later on, when Mint becomes an actual character, I feel like they do talk about what she used to be like. I feel like there's some like internal Mint dialogue going on where you get a better picture of the whole.
There's something where she says that she made 5 sacrifices or something that people make a big deal. You know? Yeah, I know that the character gets developed a lot after this point. But even then, we only see that the character's reflections on themselves prior from after this point. Like we really don't know anything about her before this.
But
Wait, can I?
Isn't Mint Horn's teacher?
Yes,
Horn and Nettle's teacher.
correct.
So they would know more about her.
Horn does for sure.
And he just doesn't really talk about her though. So maybe the shy and like quiet, mousy characterization is accurate because Horn knows her better.
He is true. Oh, he is risen, everybody.
There he is!
Let's slow this down about Mint
Jesus,
though for a
just like,
second.
I'm here!
Yeah, hey everybody, I'm back.
So-
It worked.
So Mint. Okay, so let's return back to Kyprus's visit to the funeral. Now, Kyprus programs everyone in attendance who's looking at towards the screen, right? Which is everyone, because it's a pleasurable feeling.
Is it only virgins?
It's pleasurable to everybody.
Everyone likes it.
Everybody
gets the
gets
vibe.
something.
Okay. So you can still get programmed, you just don't see a face.
Sure.
Yeah, or hear the words. But I think
But
you
it can
still
cue you can download talents into yourself that you didn't have before. People have that happen.
Like the Matrix.
Yeah, totally like the Matrix. You can fly a helicopter and you know Kung Fu.
So supposedly, like everyone would leave from there with a little bit of Kyprus programming in them, and then Kyprus also would have absorbed all of that information into like whatever database or whatever they have to like be like, okay, we've got all these or something.
No, not necessarily. Like Kyprus only gets an impression of you when she re-downloads herself or re-uploads herself. Like she can and especially when she's just overwriting people's minds, just programming people's minds, she doesn't get fingerprinted from that.
Wait, slow down a little bit.
Okay.
Break down re-uploading. What does that mean?
So like there is a piece of Kyprus in Chenille right now.
Yeah.
That has no communication with the main body of Kyprus. But at some point, if that piece of Kyprus wants to report to the main body of Kyprus and have what it's experienced be part of what Kyprus as a whole is experienced, it has to upload itself back to mainframe where the main Kyprus program is stored and be integrated into that program. At that point, it will contain the fingerprints of Chenille on it as well, and Chenille will be a part of Kyprus.
Is this
Okay.
like the fairy at the end of Earth? Who is like they're not a fairy. I can't remember what they are, but like that friend that he has, and then he sees the friend at the meadow, and they're like, I've never met you before, but I'm like a piece of that fairy from before.
The micro sad field.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Zadkiel.
Pyrogranates. Yeah, Zadkiel.
Okay, so I was reading it as it was a back and forth process. Like when you received it from mainframe, you also gave yourself to mainframe. Like that was like a two-way communication.
I think that could possibly still be true.
I don't think that it is.
Johan says Silk is a little incomplete pos, and that's why he takes on other people's traits.
I don't. Why is he saying that?
He was saying that what you were just saying is why he thinks that Silk is a incomplete pos.
Okay. My mind naturally rejects that because the piece of pos is in somebody else. But as a metaphor, I can see what you're saying.
Is he an incomplete pause in the same way that Mint has incomplete Kypris?
I think
No,
that's
he's
what.
specifically not that.
Not that.
No, he pos is not down. Pos is dead at this point.
And has been since before Silk was born, correct?
Yeah.
Like 30 years or something?
Yeah.
But is Silk a clone of Typhon?
Possibly.
Oh hell! I have no reason. I can't say that he's not.
They're both blonde, yeah?
Yeah.
Depending on what head you're talking about.
Yeah.
True.
Well,
Silk does famously have two heads.
We know which head of Typhon's is the original, though.
yeah,
Typhon.
the blonde one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought we
If
had
he was
talked
going
about
to be a
that
clone
question
of
already.
Typhon, if he was going to be of Typhon, he would be of Typhon, not of Typhon. Like,
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I think
He's definitely genetically engineered in some way. He is,
I mean,
and
that
not
is
of woman born.
interesting concept that Jordan has brought up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
I
that.
thought that we had talked about this already.
yeah, I feel like we've talked about it.
That's
I don't think
interesting.
it's my idea.
Huh.
I got it from somewhere.
Claim it.
It's mine.
You did it. You did it.
It feels like Wolf's sense of humor, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, also, I mean, if this whole experience was programmed by Typhon, then it would make sense that Typhon would die, but would be reborn.
But Typhon and Pos are not really the same thing, right? I mean,
Aren't they?
Martin Rothblatt says that they are legally separate beings.
I mean, Pos was based on Typhon, but he has morphed and changed and, manipulated over time. And he's no longer, yeah.
I mean,
don't
this
think-
is years before Severian runs into Typhon on Earth, I believe. Like, we know that Typhon is on Earth in a vegetative state.
Right, well, but Jordan said he's a clone of Typhon, not that he is Typhon.
No, but now we're talking about if Pos and Typhon are the same thing.
Oh, well, Typhon is a living being. Pos is a computer program.
Correct.
Based on Typhon.
Based on, yeah.
But he is not Typhon.
Correct.
Right.
Though, I do think that he could possibly be downloaded into Typhon and reintegrated and possibly become Typhon in that way, given the technology that Typhon possesses, as beautifully described by Shamil in this book.
Very
Pos.
interesting.
So Johanna said that Pos is more of a good guy than Typhon, and that Typhon somehow has a good plan. And that makes a lot of sense to me. That like Wolfe would believe that you can be like a horrible tyrant and have a good effect on the world.
That is certainly one way of looking at Pos. I have a hard time saying that Pos is a good guy given his plan.
Well, isn't his plan just to get everybody off the ship onto a planet?
And
A new
override all
planet?
their brains and be a whole colony of just him on a planet. Is really what his main goal is.
Is this that kind of idea where like all utopia is inherently a dystopia because you would have to like super control everybody in order to have no like hatred and war and shit?
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is
So-
what we're like rapidly running to that in the United States right now. It's like really
And I gotta say, I've been really feeling like I live. Everyone around me is just like in a shade.
yeah.
Like it's like 5 phrases everyone says over and over again, and you're like, does that mean something? I feel like that's so hard right now.
Soon it'll be like the 5 Insta stories that everyone reblogs weekly.
So boring.
We've already been doing that.
It's so boring. It's incredible.
It's
I'm like,
wild.
My mind is blown by that right now. That's
Do-
like the thing I think about the most right
Do you read Matt Taibbi's Substack?
No, I watch his show, though I haven't seen it for a little bit.
now. He has a show?
Useful Idiots.
His like
Recently got kicked off of Rolling Stone and went to Substack, and the editing has gone way down.
he's too busy, but his writing lately has been really funny because it's like a dude freaking out about this, but like very eloquently freaking out, but like a sustained freak out of this like everyone's in a shame. Whatever people are doing the opposite of what you would think they would be doing. What's happening?
He's a very funny man.
He is funny. I'm glad that he's back in my life. It definitely makes me feel. It makes me feel less crazy that I subscribed to his Substack and started like reading him on the weekends. It's made me feel less insane.
Amen.
I have some things like that. But everything that makes you feel less insane also somehow like makes you feel.
Yeah, it's nice to have your like feelings confirmed as not being like totally isolated, but they're feelings about how fucking crazy everything is.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I can't go too far into that stuff because I just get too mad.
Oh, and I get the opposite. I get the opposite because it makes me like emotionally detached from all the like psycho bullshit because it's like not free. It's like you're like, what is that? I don't fucking care.
Yeah, I start stitching together my leather harness and bolting together the pieces of my chainsaw mech suit.
Greenwald is also on that tip, but he's not as funny. Taibbi like keeps it.
No, he's really
laughing.
angry.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty.
I also found out from reading him last night at work, he has more than 12 dogs.
In Brazil.
Yeah. Yeah. He and his husband and their kids have more than 12 dogs. He didn't say how many more than 12, but that like
That is a very good point.
There's a certain point where you just stop counting. It's
yeah.
Oh, all right, we hit
You
it.
assume that it's 13, but then you realize that it might be 58.
They got a baker's dozen.
But that like I feel like alienated from him in a big way.
Yeah.
He had more than 12
Going
cats.
really, really weird.
If you had
too.
more than 12 cats, you would feel closer to him. Isn't it funny how that works?
I would think it was crazy, but I wouldn't think it was like inhuman.
Definitely a decadent thing. You have 12 pets.
Maybe when you have that many dogs, they can like take care of each other or something.
Maybe it's also that like there's a lot of stray dogs in South America. Like it might just be that there's 12 dogs that he feeds, but there aren't like they don't live in his fucking house.
Yeah,
Well-
I think it's way
You
different.
know, like kind of like how people have like the lady down the street from me has like a feral cat colony, but they're not like all her cats.
I hope that that's what it is.
Well,
Pretty, like,
I feel like you could find that out because they try to like anything weird about that guy is like exploited to the nth degree.
Yeah,
I
they
have
only
4
get-
pets, and it's too many. I can't having more than what I do. Like I would just it would be impossible.
I
I
technically
think
have
more than 2 is a little cuckoo, or not cuckoo, but a lot to deal with.
No, you're right. On both.
Kenny has this aunt who lives in.
He has a pet ant?
One
Yeah.
ant is not. That's cuckoo in a
Penny-
different way.
Kenny's aunt Darlene lives in Brooklyn, Maryland, in this little tiny row house, and she has like 1,000,000 dogs and some cats and like all these birds, and it's so insane in there. It's funny. She just sits in there and like chain smokes and like talks to the birds. She has this big ass parrot, and she'll go, "Let me see them wings." And the parrot will just like open the wings up.
Oh my god!
Penny's aunts are all really wild. And they all like divorced their husbands in like the 70s and are just these like tough ladies that they're just like,
Let me see them wings.
his mom is the only one who stayed married, and they all hate his dad.
Is his
It's
dad
really
cool?
fun.
I love this.
Yeah, it's a good scene. Penny, yeah, it's a good scene. They're
Yeah,
all like really wild.
I can't imagine knowing what Kenny's family would be like. That's
They're like, I mean, like Darlene is kind of like owns all these weird properties in Brooklyn and rents them like by the week, by the room, by the week or whatever. And she's just got all kinds of crazy shit going on, and Penny's convinced that like she would kill someone, which I think is really fun. He's like, oh, I'm not. He's like, maybe she has.
all right.
Anyway,
Well-
yeah, she's a like wild lady to hang out with. We go over there every once in a while, and you're just like,
If she has killed someone, I hope they catch her soon so I can have a new true crime doc to watch, because I feel like I've run out.
I feel like it would have been like in the early 90s.
Oh, Ryan, have you watched the one about it's like the guy who like whacked his lady in the head with like a fireplace poker, and the overarching theory is the owl theory, where an owl
Oh yeah.
The staircase.
came in. The staircase.
Oh, yeah, I've seen this staircase.
Staircase
It's very
is
good. I'm into the owl theory.
The owl theory's wild.
That is like a very impenetrable mystery, partially because of the earlier death of the earlier wife. It makes it tough.
It's so weird.
Because
I think he did it.
there appears to be a lot of evidence that maybe he didn't in the new one, but then it's like, but the old wife died falling downstairs too?
That was his, like, that wasn't his wife, that was, like, a friend of his, I think.
Yeah.
In his house.
It was another woman that went down some steps and is no longer with us. I feel like at that point, it's just safer to
But
probably
then they
assume
kind of
he
proved
did it.
that he didn't do that?
He didn't do that one. He definitely didn't. I don't think he did that.
Yeah.
I think the argument is like, oh, but he could have used this as a template.
If I was a lawyer for the state, I would say, okay, look, I don't know that this man consciously committed these crimes, but his presence causes them, so let's put him away.
I also just don't like him.
Yeah, he's not very likable.
I think
It's like, well, if I lived with that guy, I'd fall down the stairs too.
Yeah.
His kids
My
seem to
favorite
think he's
television
innocent.
program- My favorite television program right now is HBO's QAnon thing. It doesn't talk about the followers of QAnon. It talks about the internet anthropology of how QAnon got started, and it is amazing.
Okay, I'm more interested in that. I didn't know it was about that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to watch it because I know what fucking Q says, but this is about like how 8chan got started and where Gamergate comes into play.
What is it called?
QAnon Into the Storm.
I feel like I might have heard of
Fuck that. I'm watching Murder, She Wrote, and it's slap.
I've been watching a lot of Golden Girls because it comes on after Temptation Island.
Well, I started watching iCloud.
Oh, yeah.
Also, we are like a little more than halfway through the second to last season of Deep Space Nine, and I like it.
It's good.
I really had to push through some spots, though. I really almost quit a few.
Derek Jacobi is Claudius, right?
I don't know.
Derek Jacobi, who's also Cadfael,
Oh yeah, I think it is that guy.
who also looks incredibly like my mom's mom.
Nice.
I mean, when she was alive, she looked a lot like Derek Jacobi,
Where are you talking
the guy who plays Claudius and I Claudius.
Yes, that is correct.
about? Oh, that's
I watched I, Claudius a long time ago in a Latin class.
Did you watch it in Latin?
No. The teacher was kind of a pushover. Sometimes she would just put things on that were like basically related.
Satyricon. We're gonna watch Satyricon today.
She was a lovely lady, and we took advantage of her in a terrible way. But I did learn Latin somehow.
That's what counts, I think, and especially in a class that you're supposed to learn Latin.
I mean, I learned very basic Latin, and it took me like 3.5 years. So
Latin's very forgiving, isn't it? Like, you can put words in different orders and it's fine.
yeah, but you have to have your conjugations right, and that can get complicated.
As Monty Python talks about in The Life of Brian.
Yeah, and we watched Life of Brian also.
Yeah.
And one time we were going to watch Life of Brian, but then the rest of us were just like, can we watch Holy Grail instead? And she said yes, because she loved that movie. It's
I've actually been,
Okay,
Jesse and I've been watching Flying Circus, and there's so much of that show.
Yeah.
you guys, I was looking at the cast of I, Claudius, and I just clicked on a picture of the guy who plays Augustus, because all of his pictures of him, all the pictures of him look insane. And then underneath one of them, the quote is, "All my life, 90% of men have bored the arse off me."
Who is it?
Funny quote. Brian Bless.
That's
Brian
what
Blessed.
Brian
I
Blessed
thought who those
is
were
one
gonna
of
be.
the best people.
Brian Blessed rules.
All the pictures of him are insane.
Didn't he?
Yeah.
Didn't he box the Dalai Lama?
Yes, he did. He
Yeah.
also was the oldest
That's why
person at
it's-
72 to climb the Mount Everest, and while he did it, because he missed his wife, he slept with a wolf. Or so he says.
His voice is like everything you could imagine it would be from any story you ever heard of him. He has like
Yeah.
the most Brian Blessed voice of all time.
Every picture of him looks like this.
He is
He's in that old Hercules movie, and he throws is it an alligator or a bear, or he throws some kind of enormous animal into space.
And he did his own stunts for that one.
Or
For
maybe
no-
it's just he's in it though. He's great.
No CGI.
He's really good in I, Claudius.
I seen him on he was on one of the UK panel shows. Like, I think he was on the one.
All of
Yeah, and when he's just like having such a ball.
He hosted the very, very dry humor show, Have I Got News for You? And just like said fuck, cock, and tit the whole time. And like couldn't read off the auto cue and was like, why the fuck should I bloody read off the auto cue? Amazing. Like he'd make his own joke and somebody eventually would have to be like, we have to do this show, and he'd be like, well, I'm amazing.
We stand Brian Blessed. What a name, too.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Anyways, he would be in the cast of my adaptation of the series. For sure. He would play many, many roles.
It would be like The Clumps with Brian
Yeah.
Blessed.
Well, he's definitely Hildegard.
Ah.
Yeah. Total Hildegard.
And he's definitely Zadkiel.
Well, you could make him Father Anire, and then,
Yeah, and then he's everybody.
yeah.
Not small enough. right? Isn't Father Neary's little, isn't he?
Yeah, he's all stooped over.
It would be funny to have Brian Blessed be a very small man. Just
We'll
like
use
size.
force perspective, Lord of the Rings style.
Yeah.
Everybody else will be up really close, and he'll be very far away, and then his volume will be normal.
I'm into that.
Anyway,
What do we got in this book?
What do we got in this book?
Is I think we said all the things that I wrote down, except that when Chenille's in the arbor and she has hungry eyes, I thought maybe she was Sphygix.
oh,
That maybe there was a Sphygix thing, but I mean, she explicitly says that she's part Kypris and tells us why, so I kind of didn't really sort of half wrote that. Like, I was looking for Sphygix after he says, alright, today's going to be my Sphygix day, so when I'm reading the chapter, I was like, let me find Sphygix, and like kind of the best thing I had was the description of her hungry eyes.
Oh, I think Sphygix is in the part where they're like trying to figure out who there's one part where they're spitballing of what city might Crane be working for. We have no idea who it might be, and they're like, yeah, it could be anybody.
But that's, and then they have the statue of Sphygix.
Right, it's kind of like right there in front of them.
Yeah.
Like, and they say we should figure out more about whoever that stall vendor is.
It's funny too, because doesn't she say, like, I don't know what this little square piece of it is, it's like a tablet or something, and then they're also like, I don't know, there might be a message in there maybe, and isn't the message in the square thing?
I don't recall, but yeah.
I felt like they were being kind of obtuse about that statue.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that, like, when things are that literal, Silk doesn't catch them.
Maybe. Also, we don't know who's holding something back at any point, Because we also, like, Silk is duplicitous and weird this whole chapter. It ends with him being duplicitous and, like, with that being underlined where, Oreb starts screaming "bad man" at Gulo, and Silk is like, "Oh, he's just afraid of your black robe. And he's afraid
And
that
then
you're gonna cut
Oreb
him."
flies
And then,
his shoulder.
then Oreb like lands on his specifically black robed shoulder.
Gulo doesn't know though.
No, and he stands Silk after a couple of chapters because everybody keeps giving him money, I think.
Oh, I think that's like the weird unintentional effect of, like, like you were talking earlier about, if you give all the jewels to this guy, then you know if he stole the jewels. If you give him the key, then you don't have to worry about him prying for the key. But then the effect that it has is the guy is like, this dude trusts me and he's good. Like,
right. Well, and I think that's something that I feel like I took away from this book that has been a major thing for me is that the best use of power is to give it away, because then people will be thankful for that power and you will get more power, which you will just give away, and that is how power increases, rather than power which is wielded diminishes because it's used up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's also this is something we've been talking about in my other group a lot, about real power being generative, not extractive.
You have another Gene Wolfe group?
No. My other weird group that I meet with.
If you guys, I've never heard of this group before, but I would hope that if anything good comes up, you would bring it here so that we would have the benefit of this group without having to spend the time in it.
I'm sorry, say again?
I would like you, if anything really good happens in your other group, I feel like you should bring it to this group as well, so that we can have it.
I don't know why you would think I'm not doing that. I just did it right now.
Oh, I guess you just never cited the other group before, but that's fine.
It was a 5-week thing that's over now.
Oh, it was Carolyn's class, right?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Which was really cool.
I bet it was.
Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah.
That's a thing. That's a theme that came up a lot. It's about power being about authentic power being generative and like false power being extractive.
There's
Silk has a generative power. He's like,
Yeah.
there's something about him, and it's not something, and it's not something that he lords over people. It's just something that, like, when you're in your authentic power, it's something that draws people to you, but not, and it inspires them to be in their power. Instead of you saying, I don't have power unless I take your power from you, that's like an illegitimate version of power. That
I
isn't.
kind of feel like this might be a byproduct of his martial programming, too. Like, because it works the same way in martial arts. I think that he just takes the genetic programming he has for martial arts and is applying it to social situations, and that's where that tendency comes from.
But part of that is being secure in your own power.
Sure.
Like,
sure.
if you're insecure in your own power, you feel you have to take it from other people. But if you're secure in your own power, people trust that, and then it makes them be able to have, like, live in their power.
And like Silk frequently acts out of his own interest, especially when he's like first meeting people or thrust into situations. He doesn't do what's in his own interest. He tries to figure out what's in the other person's interests. And I feel like when he does that, it gives the impression to other people that he's really powerful. Because they're like, well, if he can put aside his own like safety or his own like increase right now to help me, he must have a whole lot of safety and power that he can like just not protect himself right now.
What makes him devout is that he's selfless up until the mansion, and then the mansion takes precedent. So you remember when he's talking to Chenille, and he's like, and she's like, I need a bunch of money. He's like, I need exactly 26,000 cards. If we raise 100,000, you'll have 74 of those, but I need 26 for the mansion.
Well, but that's because God told him to, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's not even entirely... Like, if it were just up to Silk, he wouldn't be taking cards from anyone, you know?
But he's been told by God, and he's been told by Blood, kind of through Musk, he's got a time limit, so that's just the reality of his mission from God. And as the time is ticking, he has to make harder decisions as far as like doing things that he wouldn't otherwise do. He's been very explicit about that.
And he never wavers from that.
Yeah, he wants to buy time with Blood, but he doesn't ever try to buy time with the Outsider. Which is funny, because he like bargains with all the other gods.
The Outsider's different.
Yes. Oh, hey, is there a part of Prometheus where is there a version of Prometheus where he makes people?
Yes.
Okay, because there's a bit in this chapter where they talk about how the Outsider made people out of dust, and for some reason I flashed on a Prometheus.
The Outsider makes them out of mud.
Yeah. I feel like that's what I heard. That's what I remember from the Prometheus making people story, is that he made them out of mud.
He does.
Yeah, that seemed really intentional to me, that there was suddenly a Outsider Prometheus cognate.
Well, Yahweh also makes them out of mud.
Right.
Yes. Also, Outsider has illuminated the nature of the universe for Silk, and Prometheus brings fire.
That's good.
Oh, and there's also little tiny fires outside of the world.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait till we go to the lake.
Well, we have another hour. I don't see why we have to stop if we feel like we've exhausted this chapter. Unless you guys just want to end early, which is also fine.
I mean, for either of those plans.
I didn't read the next chapter, so...
Yeah, I read the the next chapter last week, and I haven't reread it today.
Well, maybe we should just end early.
It is Easter.
It is Easter.
And you guys can all go think about Jesus.
Well, I could probably find more eggs if I have an extra hour.
I can play with rabbits.
Oh, yeah. You got
That's very on the nose.
Yeah, yeah.
rabbits.
I got 3 of them. One of them lets you play with her. The other 2 don't.
You could play with rabbit.
Well, the other 2 will like run up and like check to make sure that I haven't suddenly produced a treat somehow, and then like run away.
We have a little cat friend who's been hanging out around the house.
Ooh.
Look out!
He's like a neighborhood guy. We've been letting him in, and now he comes around every day. And he's spent the night a couple of times, and but not every night. We're like working him slowly.
Ooh. How little?
We call him Lil Rudy.
How little?
He's fully grown, but he's like a little guy. Yeah.
That's cool.
He's very cute.
Oh man, nobody told me I have this thing in my teeth.
You better get that.
God, it looks horrible.
Can't really see it. Okay.
Got it.
I just thought you guys would want to know.
I did want to know.
Lil Rudy.
Lil Rudy.
Maybe you'll see him run around. We named him that because there's this guy named Rudy who like does all the yards in the neighborhood. Who's just like always around the whole neighborhood. So we named him that because he's always around the whole neighborhood.
Did I tell you guys that we found a house?
Where at?
Where?
It's in.
Should we end the stream? Should we end the stream?
Yeah, I mean.
Oh, okay.
Not really.
This might be a good thing to end the stream on.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.